chelo, amalunko onye melo, amalo onye dị mma na onye dị njọ. Asị na anya na-afụ obi, asị na anya na-afụ ime obi, afụ nke onye chelo.
Once upon a time, there lived a man named Amadi. Amadi, who was a wealthy farmer who was married to Nkiruka. They had been married for some time before they had a child called George. He was the first child, their only son. Amadi's business was booming very well. He had large farms, many scattered around his village. He was exporting many crops. He was very rich. With his success, he was able to help his own brothers, Jude, Nonso, and Emeka. Now one day, Amadi was at the farm when an accident happened. A tractor hit him. He was rushed to the hospital, but unfortunately, he died. Now when this happened, Nkiruka was heartbroken. Amadi was the love of her life. Thinking that her brother-in-laws would support her and be her strength during this difficult time, they came on her like vultures, taking away all Amadi's properties, all his lands, his houses, everything. At this time, Nkiruka's son, George, was only 16. He wasn't yet a full man to help his mother fight off the vultures. But when he saw the pain his mother was going through, one day, when his uncle Jude came to collect another piece of land, George fought him off, shouting, "You vultures, get out of here. When my father was alive, he did everything for you people. Now you have taken everything from my mother. All his houses, you have taken all the papers for it. His lands, the properties, you have taken everything. He made you business partners, thinking that you were his family. But at the end, you people are vultures." George was a small boy, yet he had so much courage to speak up to his uncle. Jude, his uncle, almost beat him that day, but his mother protected him. Eventually, they had a family meeting, and it was agreed that 2 farmlands should be left for Nkiruka and her son. If everything was taken away from them, how would they survive? Now, Amadi's brothers, Jude, Nonso, and Emeka, were not happy about this. Like greedy fools, they wanted to take everything. But this order had come from their king, and so they had to obey. Now, life was difficult for Nkiruka. Once, when she lived in wealth, her brother-in-laws have taken everything, and she now lived in poverty. She didn't want this for her son. So she approached her cousin, Ejiofor. Ejiofor was into the gold business. He was a gold miner. He had so much money. She begged Ejiofor to take her son George and train him like he had trained other young boys, so that George can have his own money and become independent. Ejiofor agreed. Ejiofor took George to his home. In Ejiofor's house, he had a wife named Ruth, and they had 3 small children. Ruth welcomed George. By this time, George was getting to 17. He was very tall and well built, well spoken, very humble. He was not rude. His mother had told him to behave himself. Once he finished this training with Ejiofor will settle him and he can start his own. All he had to do was bend his head down, listen to his master and the wife, and everything would be okay. If he had any problem, he should come and tell Nkiruka, his mother. That is what she said. And so it was. George lived with Ejiofor and Ruth, and everything was okay. There were other boys as well who worked for Ejiofor. Now was to go home during the day and carry some cartons and take back to the main shop. During this time, a lot of people had left the house. It was mostly Ruth and the maid or the gardener that was at home because she was a housewife. So this happened when everybody has gone to work. Ejiofor, all the boys, during the day, Ejiofor will send George back home to get 2 or 3 cartons and bring to the shop. And that is what he was doing. Now one day, he came back home to get these cartons, and Ruth called him to come inside. He came. "Yes, ma, is there anything I can do for you?" he asked. And then she said there is a box she's trying to get from up in her wardrobe. She cannot reach it. That George should come and help her. So George agreed. He had never entered his master's bedroom before, but he would like to help his madam. So he went into the room. The room was very big and beautiful. Ruth pointed out the wardrobe for him, and then he went towards it. Up where she pointed, he could see the box. So he reached for it and brought it down easily because he was a very tall, built type of person. By the time he turned his back, Ruth was standing naked. Ah, madam, what is wrong? He shouted. Immediately he closed his eyes. Are you a small boy? Ruth said. Why are you closing your eyes? Don't you like me? Mm. Come and touch me, she said. Hey. George was surprised. Where is this coming from? How can this happen? This cannot be, he said. He said, no, man, I don't want any trouble. I don't want any trouble. His eyes were still closed and he was trying to run away. But Ruth jumped at him. No, nothing will happen. Eh? Don't worry, I'll take care of you. Don't you want to eat what your guy is eating? She said. No, I don't want to eat whatever our guy is eating. I want to leave, he shouted. No, what do you mean by you want to reject me? Ruth was saying. Before you could say another thing, Ruth had started raising her voice, and George was so scared. He was screaming, let me go, I want to go. Now, at this exact moment, the maid came in when she was hearing them scream, Madam, what is it? And immediately Ruth jumped on the bed. Hey, he attacked me. He tore my dress apart. Ha! George, you attacked Madam? George started crying. No, I did not attack her. I did not attack her. What are you doing in August's bedroom? The maid shouted. The next thing, before he could even speak, the maid ran downstairs and called the gardener, the gatesman, every other domestic staff. Come and see, George wants to jump, madam. And before anybody could say anything, George was tagged a rapist. George was so scared. What type of problem is this? What have I done to deserve this? What is it? In all the commotion, they sent for Geoffrey. By this time, they had taken George and Ruth to the town square where the Igwe was, and they told the Igwe everything. Ejiofor got there and also heard the story. He was very shocked and surprised. But the maid said yes, that she saw George holding Madame, and then next thing, Madame started crying. By that time, what people did not know was that Ruth had already marked her body with some objects, which made it appear as if George had attacked her. Some parts had been cut and blood was coming out. Ruth was crying and weeping. She said that for a while now, George has been eyeing her, but she didn't want to tell her husband because she couldn't even believe it. George was a small boy. He just attacked her. She doesn't even know why he entered their bedroom. George was so shocked he couldn't speak. The only thing George would say was, God, do not forsake your children, he would say. Now, later, his mother came. His mother was crying. George, what did you do? What did you do? Now, there was commotion and confusion. And so the Igwe said that they have to take an oath to prove their innocence. That oath will settle everything because, other than the maid, this is now George's words against Ruth's words. And of course, people were leaning towards Ruth as she was the wife of a rich man. Who was George? George was a nobody. Yes, his father was once rich, but now they have been reduced to poverty. When his uncles came to this town square, they said, you see, I knew this boy was irresponsible, very useless boy. Go and work for your master. No, instead you want to eat your master's food under his nose. They now sent for the Ezemo. When the Ezemo came, he told both Ruth and George to drink from a calabash. Whoever is innocent, nothing will happen to that person. But the person who is lying will become mad. So before everybody, they drank the liquid. After they each drank from the calabash, nothing happened. So the Igwe told them to go home, that he and his cabinet members will deliberate on the issue further. That night, George could not go back to Ejiofor's house. He had to go with his mother because of the incident that had happened. All that night, his mother was crying and crying and crying. People had now called her a bad woman, a bad mother. People have insulted her and poured her water. George himself was sad, but he told his mother, Mama, do not worry. I did not touch that woman. The gods will vindicate me. Watch. That night, as they slept, George began to convulse. His mother screamed, George, George, what is it? What is it? But George wasn't speaking. He was shaking and shaking and shaking. Ah, George, George, please don't do this to me. George, George, stand up, stand up. But George wasn't standing up. He was just shaking like a snake. Nkiruka was so scared. She ran and called the neighbors, everybody. But now, when as people came, they began to say, maybe what Desemo said is now taking effect. Maybe true, he did what he did, in fact, attack Ruth. So instead of them to help George, help his mother carry him, nobody touched him. They just watched him as he convulsed, then he stopped, and then he died. Nkiruka wanted to die. She was screaming and shouting and shouting and shouting. Some people ran to call the Ezemo. Some people ran to call the Ejiofor. Some people ran to tell the king, George has died. Now, the next day, because of this, George was not buried. His body was thrown into where other dead criminals have been buried. He did not have a proper burial. For the people, the matter had come to an end. But for George, the matter had not ended. George woke up and found himself wearing all white. He was standing in a place that was surrounded with clouds. Everywhere was bright. Then he saw a big door far ahead and he walked towards that door. There he saw other people wearing white. They all looked beautiful and happy. And so he wanted to enter. But then from the right side, somebody came and said, no, you cannot enter. Stop. George turned and looked at the man. He was very old with so much gray hair. Why can't I enter, sir? What is wrong? Why am I here? And the man explained to George, you are dead. Someone has killed you. But the problem now is that your spirit cannot enter the afterlife. Why can't I enter the afterlife? If I'm dead, that means I can see my dad. I can see my father. George, you can. But the problem now is that you cannot. As I said, your spirit cannot ascend into the afterlife. Your spirit is still trapped between the living and the dead. But why is that so? And the man explained, someone has killed you and justice has not yet been served. You have to receive justice for you to ascend to the afterlife. And George began to remember, yes, he had been falsely accused. He remembers now, he was convulsing and then he died. And then he saw his spirit go up. He could see his mother crying and other people surrounding him. Does it mean that the liquid in the calabash actually killed him? Then George asked the man, tell me truly, what happened to me? And then the man said, someone killed you to protect their name. Who? George asked. And by the way, who are you? Where is this place? And the man said he is the gatekeeper of the afterlife. For someone to enter into that place, the person has to pass through him. Can't you see that the people who are inside are different from you? And then George noticed it. On the heads of all those people was a white, bright circle, like the sun. But on his head, the circle was red, bright red. Because of this, the man said, you cannot enter the afterlife. Your circle has to turn bright white. And to do that, you have to make the person who killed you confess. Hey, God. Who is this person? George asked. And the man explained to him that the person who has killed you is Ruth. She took something before she drank from the calabash, and so nothing happened to her. If you can make her confess that she accused you falsely, and she and Desemo planned your death, then you can enter the afterlife. You only have a few days. If she does not confess, your spirit will be trapped forever. And your spirit will become one of a demented spirit. You will begin to kill the people of your land because they have refused to give you vengeance. By that time, Your spirit and soul will be so corrupt you cannot enter anymore into the afterlife. Hey, George was afraid. What type of thing is this? Okay, so what can I do to get her to confess? You're a spirit now, you're a ghost. You can go and hunt her. Take this koboko, flog her in her dream. By the time you flog her for 2 days, she will confess. Okay, George was happy. He took the koboko and disappeared. Now, after a few days, Ejiofor and his wife Ruth were sleeping. That night, George appeared. In his hand was the koboko. He went and stood next to Ruth's side of the bed. And the next thing, he brought her the koboko and began to flog her. Flog her, flog her. Ruth screamed. Her body was like she was in fire. She was dreaming and she thought she was in hell. But immediately she screamed and woke up. In that moment, she saw George. George's face was so angry. She screamed, "What are you doing here?" Ejiofor stood up. "What is it? What is it?" And then George disappeared. Ruth kept quiet. Nothing, nothing. I just had a nightmare. Are you sure? It's nothing, it's nothing. Are you sure? Yes, yes, it's nothing. Okay, sleep back. Ejiofor was worried. What type of nightmare is this? Why was she screaming? But he didn't say anything. Now the next day, Ruth went and met Deso and told Deso what happened. They had to tie George's spirit down. If they don't tie him down, he's going to torment her forever. Deso told her not to worry. He knows what to do. But whatever the Ezemo was supposed to do, it didn't work. Because again, the following night, George appeared with the same koboko and was flogging Ruth, flogging her, flogging her, flogging her. Ruth will scream, run, shout. Ejiofor was so worried. Now it got to a point where Ruth started sleeping in her own room because she was afraid that she may say something in her sleep and her husband will begin to suspect her. Again, George appeared and flogged Ruth and flogged her. "Confess, confess, you wicked woman, confess." Ruth was shouting, "Leave me alone, leave me alone. Confess what? I'm not confessing. Leave me alone, leave me alone." And George disappeared. Ruth stood up. She was so afraid. Why hasn't the Ezemo done anything about this boy spirit? Why is he tormenting me up and down? She was pacing in her room. What she did not know was that her husband, Ejiofor, was watching her from another door. Ejiofor's face was angry. Something is wrong. Since this boy died, this woman has not had one good night's sleep. Not one. Every day she's screaming, "I will not confess, I will not confess." What has this woman done? Now, the next day, George appeared before the gatekeeper of the afterlife. "Hey, my son, has she confessed?" "Baba, that woman is wicked though. She doesn't want to confess." You didn't use the koboko. "I have used the koboko, sir. I have flogged her since morning to night. I keep flogging this woman, chasing this woman, changing face. They have done everything. This woman doesn't want to confess." It's like that woman, her heart is like stone. Oh. "Baba, what can I do?" George asked. "Time is running out, and I can feel my soul disappear. What should I do?" And the Baba said, "Do not worry, my son. The gods are on your side. Your mother has been crying and crying at your gravesite, and the gods have decided to help you. Do not appear anymore. Instead, go to your mother." And that is what George did. Every night when his mother will sleep, he will appear to her in her dream and comfort her. He will sing to her, hold her hand, and tell her that everything will be okay. Now, by this time, Ruth had a very strange sickness. Her private parts began to smell. The odor was too much. People began to notice. "Ruth, is anything wrong with you?" "No." "Did you pee on your pants, Ruth?" one of her friends asked. "No." "Why did you say that?" Ruth, you have been smelling lately. Oh. I didn't know how to tell you, but I think maybe you should change your cream or something. Something is wrong." There's nothing Ruth did not do. Every vaginal product she could lay her hand on, she used it. But nothing was working. She had gone from one herbalist to one Ezemo to one chief priest to one everybody. Nobody knew what was going on. Even her husband had begun to notice it. Now, by this time, Ejiofor's spirit was not resting. Ejiofor's mind was stressed out. Something was going on, but he did not know what it was. One day, when he was in his shop, he called one of his oldest boys. His name was Ikenna. Ejiofor trusted him the most. Ejiofor called him and said, Ike, I'm going to ask you something. Do not lie to me. This thing that happened to George, has it ever happened to any of you in the house? At first, Ikenna did not want to speak. But then Ejiofor begged him. Ejiofor has been very kind to him. And so Ikenna spoke up. Ikenna said George was not the first boy Ruth had approached. She had approached many boys in the past. There was a particular boy named Mark. Mark had committed suicide and his body was thrown into the evil forest. But what people did not know was that Mark did not commit suicide. Ruth had killed him because guilt had begun to consume Mark. Mark was the father of all the children Ejiofor has. But because Ejiofor was so kind to Mark, Mark was becoming so troubled. Guilt was eating him alive. He wanted to confess to you. But before he could confess, we heard he had committed suicide. I do not believe he committed suicide. I think your wife killed him. There have been other boys in the past. While some ran away, some were accused of stealing, others just disappeared. I think she may have approached George, and George refused in shock. I don't think George attacked her, Ikenna said. Ejiofor was shocked. How could he verify everything that Ikenna had told him? The only way he could verify this was to take his 3 children for a DNA test, and there it will reveal whether or whether not those children were his own. By this time, Ruth had started having maggots come out from her private parts. The smell was no longer her problem. Her problem was maggots was coming out from her private part to her leg to the floor. Nobody wanted to come near her. Ruth was running mad slowly. Nobody had a cure. Nobody knew what to do. Her whole room was smelling. Even the maids could not go in. Every day, maggot was coming out. Now, one day, as Ruth was lying down on her bed, contemplating what she should do with her life, Ejiofor burst in. You wicked woman. You evil being. Ruth was shocked. What do you mean? What happened? What do you mean? What happened? What happened? You still have the audacity to pretend? Ejiofor shouted. In his hand was a paper, and he threw that paper at her. Ruth picked up the paper, and there she saw a DNA result. All the 3 children were not Ejiofor's children. You witch! What did you do to George? And at that moment, Ruth confessed. She confessed to all the adultery she had committed and all the boys that she had killed. Immediately she confessed, she ran mad. Now that night, George appeared to his mother for the last time. Mama, George, my son, what is it? I'm going. I'm going to be with Papa. You're going? Why are you going? Mama, I don't want you to cry anymore, George said. Me and Papa will look after you. But now I have to go. By this time, the circle on George's head had turned from red to white. The whole village had now known that Ruth was the person who killed him. His justice had finally come, and he can now enter the afterlife. And that day, when he disappeared from his mother's dreams, he went straight to the gate, and the gateman of the afterlife opened the doors for him. Because Ejiofor was a good man, he decided to take care of George's mother for the rest of his life.
na mo